Welcome to What's the Effort?
What the F?
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I feel very honored. I feel very honored every time, but I feel especially honored because Jake Cross is someone who I've been looking forward to meeting for a while and just had the opportunity not too long ago. So I welcome Jake. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I love being here.
Good, great. We're happy to have you. Now, I'd like to start by asking a little bit about you when you were a tyke, a little one.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell me, like what kind of a child were you?
Yeah. I was the conniving, sneaky one. My mom says I was a little bit of a manipulator. I like to manipulate. I have two younger siblings, and I like to manipulate them to do what I was hoping they would do. And I just call it sales practice. So I was learning how to pitch my ideas at an early age. But
Oh, that's hysterical. That's hysterical. So you were the oldest. Were the others boys, girls, or what?
so it goes me, my sister, and then my brother. So I've got one of each.
Okay, very, very nice. And where did you grow up?
We kind of moved around all over the place. I was born out in California. We moved to Houston for a while. Then we moved up to Idaho, and then we moved back down to Dallas.
Whoa, you're going a little fast. Where in California were you from?
The LA area. So kind of that area. So.
And you moved from LA to where? Houston?
Houston. Yep. We lived in Houston for a little bit. Then we moved up to Idaho. And then we moved back to Dallas, and I kind of spent the rest of my high school years through the Dallas area there. So
why'd you guys move around that much?
Just my dad changing jobs. Got new job promotions. So we moved about every 3-ish years, 3.5, 4 years or so.
Sometimes that can be hard on kids.
Yeah. We got pretty good at making new friends pretty fast. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem to bother us too much. No, and by the time we got into high school too, when I think that starts to make a bigger impact, at that point we kind of settled down in Dallas. So we finished off all of middle school and high school through Dallas. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And actually I was going down that path for a long time, even into college. And then I got through most of the chemistry classes for pre-med, and I got into organic chemistry. And then I was sitting there in class one time, and it was a really hard class. And I was like, why am I doing this? So I decided I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. I was too fascinated with business on the other side of it. So we pivoted, and I actually did healthcare administration. I did an information systems undergrad. So I did a lot of tech side of things there. I really like to create stuff.
So you switched from medicine to information systems?
Well, I knew I was going to have to do something in undergrad. So I was already on the path to do information systems for undergrad, but I was planning on doing med school afterwards.
Oh, I see.
And so instead of doing med school after my undergrad, I went on to do healthcare administration. So I went to the University of Michigan. We did healthcare administration there. And I thought that's what I was going to be the rest of my life, was a healthcare administrator. And
that's kind of a sort of occupation that most people wouldn't think to aspire to. I want to be a healthcare administrator. What made you decide that? Like, why that?
So it's funny you asked that. I had one of my best friends, his dad was a healthcare administrator, and I had a chance through high school to shadow him a couple times.
Oh.
And he was somebody who I looked up to a ton. He was somebody who I saw frequently. He was kind of a role model to me in a lot of ways. And so I had a chance to shadow him a little bit and talk a lot with him about his role. I loved the fact that it was a decent paying job. It had regular hours. I thought that's the type of thing I wanted, and that's what I was going after. But then fast forward a little bit, I got actually into the field, and I realized that I'm not a W-2 style person. So
How long were you a healthcare administrator?
I was working in the hospital for, I want to say it was like 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years. That's long enough to know if you like it or not. Isn't it interesting how simply by shadowing your friend's father a few times and having a relationship with him can guide you to that direction?
100%. Yeah.
It is interesting. It makes you kind of realize that you have to be careful with, when you're with kids or how you can encourage them. So yeah, that's interesting. Do you any chance you still stay in touch with that person? Does he know that you went into?
Yeah. After I got into healthcare administration, he and I would talk periodically, and we'd message him. He helped me land a couple internships when I was still in school, and yeah, so we had a great relationship still. So.
Well, that's nice. And where were you? Were you still in Dallas there then?
Nope. I went to undergrad up in Utah, and then I went off to Michigan for grad school. So.
Okay. And is that where you worked as an administrator?
Nope. That's what moved us out here. I moved all over the place, heavy. So we moved from, like I said, went to undergrad in Utah, then went to Michigan for grad school. And then we moved out here to Pennsylvania, kind of near Penn State area. We moved out here to a hospital out here, and that's where we've been. So. Right.
Well, Jared, who I know, says hello. He says he's happy to meet
Hey, Jared.
Yeah, Jared's good. He's a PML, and he also does co-living. So we have a number of things in common. It is interesting how some people never move very much, just a little bit. And then, I'm asking you about, tell me about this moment, that moment, this moment. And each one you've moved.
Different place. Yeah.
Yeah. So that usually means that if a move is coming up in your own head, you're already figuring out what you got to do. It's not as big a shock. And you're probably pretty good at it.
Yeah, my wife and I, we used to joke because we've been married now for a little over 10 years. And in the first, I think it was the first 6 years of our marriage, I think we had moved like 10 times. So some of them were across town to different apartments and stuff like that, but it was still a lot of moving back and forth and moving to different cities sometimes too. So
we've done a fair share of moving. Something like, I don't mind, honey, but when we have kids, this has got to stop. Because that's what I did with my husband. We moved a lot, and I didn't mind. But when we had kids, I was like, once they get to school, I don't want to be doing this to them, because I'd always thought it'd be hard.
She's a pretty good sport. She's much more constant. She's like the easy, like steady energy all the time. And I'm the much more like emotion, like roller coaster, where I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then sometimes like, I'm tired. Like she keeps the consistency going. So
what was it about healthcare administration that you decided was not your cup of tea?
I realized, so two things. I realized that healthcare is way more political than I had anticipated it would be getting into.
Yeah.
And that pained me when sometimes there were decisions that were being made that didn't feel like it was for the benefit of the patient all the time, but it was being made for the decision of politics and whose idea it was and all that. That just it didn't settle well with me. So that always just kind of got under my skin. And then the other big thing too was I think it was just the W-2 lifestyle in general. I just realized I wasn't a W-2 employee. I realized I had done sales. Like that's how I paid for most of my college was I did door-to-door sales for a couple summers when I was doing grad school and stuff or undergrad and stuff.
What were you selling?
Pest control. I was one of those annoying guys who'd knock on your door, say if you want pest control.
Yeah. Did you bring the cockroaches with you?
No.
Oh, I see you have cockroaches.
We were a good company, but we didn't do any of that type of stuff. But I did fine with it. I wasn't one of those people who are like, I made like six figures and like we did good money, but especially for a summer. But it paid through my college, and so I was good there. And then I realized as I kind of missed the feeling though with sales, where if you work harder, you can produce that much more income. And I realized with a W-2 job, you just don't get that. I could be working as hard as I possibly can, and somebody else who's sitting in the other office over from me, who's just sitting there just doing whatever they need to get by. We were going to make the exact same income or whatever, we were going to stay consistent to whatever we were. And that just never settled well with me. I was like, I want to perform better. I want there to be incentives or rewards for performing better too, because that's what I want to do. I want to contribute. And there just wasn't that opportunity. So
Very interesting. So at this time, is that what you were doing when you met Pace? Like, how did your life change into real estate? Talk about that transition part.
Yeah. So I actually, I, like a lot of people, went through the YouTube University. And it's funny because I was sitting there at work one time, and I'd gone around all these different departments. I should probably be careful confessing that. But I'd gone around all these different departments saying, "Hey, can I help anybody out right now? I'm looking to be able to do a project for someone," and nobody had anything for me to do. And so I was like, "So what do I do?" So I asked my boss, and he said, "Well, go back to your office and find something to just entertain yourself for a little while, and we'll find something else for you to do soon." So I was like, "Okay." So I went back to my office, and I was sitting there just trying to find something to do. I pulled up the internet and I searched how to produce wealth for your family or something like that. I don't remember exactly the words.
Interesting.
And I just looked for high wealth generating, I think I said jobs at first, but the more I was doing it, it kept popping up real estate. And I was like, okay. And at the time we didn't even own our own home. We were still renting our own home and everything like that.
You have children at this time?
Yeah, we had 2. We had 2 at this point. We have 4 now. So we had 2.
Wow.
Yeah, but we had 2 kids at this point. And so I started just kind of researching a little bit, saying, "Hey, what produces wealth? What produces income out there for people who want to live in a fancier lifestyle?" And so, which is funny because I don't really care about the fancy lifestyle. I just wanted to produce something that would allow me to hopefully retire at an earlier age if possible. So, so I started going down that path, and I kept coming across real estate, and I came across Chris Crone, which some people know really well. And Chris Crone was one of the first people who I started watching a lot of his content, along with Jerry Norton. And I came across both of them, who had a ton of YouTube content.
Yep.
I actually won a free mentorship, and I'm actually still part of Chris Crone's mentorship program because
wow,
he ran a contest and I won that one. So I was able to jump into a partnership and mentorship program with him. So I still participate. I was actually on his partnership call the other week. So
cool.
And then after that, I actually then paid to join a mentorship program. And the first one I joined was Jerry Norton's program. And I realized his was very deep on just wholesale, and also did quite a bit on flipping properties. And I knew I didn't necessarily, at the time, I didn't really want to be involved too much with flips. I was doing some wholesale and I wanted to learn that. But in the back of my mind, I still wanted to get into the rental game and doing more there.
I have to ask you, why?
So wholesaling at the time, I had no money. We were looking to buy our own property. We had income coming through, I should say that, but I didn't have enough. In my mind, I was still stuck in this mindset of, hey, it always has to be, you put down your 20% on the home. You know what I mean? The traditional way that so many people think you have to buy all these homes. I was stuck in this mindset of that's the only way to do it. And so we started slowly surrounding ourselves with people doing more and more. And so wholesale to me was a means to be able to say, hey, here's a way to produce some income, find deals for other people, and then in the process, rub shoulders and build relationships with a lot of these buyers, get to know what they're looking for, which then kind of helps you vet deals for yourself as well. So I did that for for a very, very long time. I've done wholesale, but I joined Jerry's thing, and then in Jerry's mentorship, that's when I met somebody who said, "Oh, you should check out Pace. He's got this sub-2 community that just started up." And that was back in 2020 when it had first started. And so I found out some more information and said, "I'm down. Let's go for it." So we jumped in and joined. So
you joined sub-2 in 2020. So you was at near the beginning.
Yeah, I think I may be wrong on this. I thought he started it in like May, and I joined in, I think it was like beginning of December or something like that of 20.
Oh, that's cool. So you actually joined 3 mentorships. Did you join others later, or was that a number?
Yep. I've joined, I think 4 more since then.
What?
Yeah.
4 more since then? Wow. Yeah. Okay. So all you gurus who are looking for mentees, contact Jake.
No. And this is the thing, is the reason why I joined. Well, the reason, oh, good.
Who else?
We joined. So some of them not all of them are just real estate either though. So we've done some that are like M&A. So we buy businesses as well. So we have a mentorship program there. There was one that we joined, and I don't even remember the name of the individual now. It was the biggest waste of money. We wasted a
I
ton
was
of
going
money.
to say, I'm sure you remembered it when you wrote the check or paid
Yeah.
your credit card.
It was super expensive, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus either, but we ended up paying a lot of money. That one was like, I think it was $35,000. And we got no ROI on that thing. There was no benefit really from it. And so that was the biggest mistake I made, is I learned how to kind of vet them better. But that actually changed. I've realized a couple times when I've had a couple times in my life where I felt like I wasted money on something, and that was one of them, that mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
But from each of those, I feel like we learned something pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one changed the way that I invest in mentorship programs, because I had sub 2 that was kind of this like beacon of like fantastic opportunity. And so I had that to kind of compare against. And so some of the other ones that we've joined since then have not so much been for education in the same way, but it's been more so for communities and networks. And so we've been able to join a couple of those. And sometimes I've even, there's one of them that I negotiated with them, and I said, hey, look, I'll join. I'm not joining for education or anything like that. I'll even join and even help out on the coaching side, but you need to make me a lifetime member instead of this annual subscription. And it worked. So sometimes you can negotiate.
Yes, you can, as I found out too. Out of curiosity, the $35,000 one, what kind of mentorship was it? Like, what was it on?
It was a wholesaling one. It was about how to maximize, and it was really heavy on processes and automation for how to automate your wholesale business. And efficiency of lists and stuff like that. And a lot of the stuff that I felt like I was missing, I felt like I was missing a little bit of like the KPI and the process knowledge of how to scale the company beyond just myself and a couple VAs or other key employees. And so we were trying to scale it to a higher level, and that's what this one promised to be. But
so what did your wholesale organization look like? I mean, I imagine you were a one-man shop when you first started. And, what you said, you had a couple of VAs. How large did it get?
So when it started, it was just me. And we scaled it to the point where we had, I think at its biggest, we had 12 lead, like cold callers and SMS VAs. We had 5 lead managers, 2 acquisition managers, and a dispo manager. So
that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Were they all on commission?
No, most of the VAs are hourly rates.
Right. So then you've got the pressure of making sure that the business makes enough to feed them and still feed your growing family.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. Did you enjoy it?
No.
Okay, so guys, so before they come on, they have to sign a disclaimer that they're going to be honest. That's so funny. That's hysterical.
Yeah.
So you did the wholesaling. Why? Because that's what you saw?
I did wholesaling because, kind of like I was saying earlier, it was a means to an end. It was a way that I saw to get into real estate with no funds of my own and being able to acquire something. And my goal was to acquire enough wealth from wholesaling to then invest it into properties and then have that continue to grow and eventually drop off wholesale, which I'm grateful.
Right from the get-go.
Yeah. Well, and I thought we would keep wholesale a whole lot longer. We actually just kind of slowed down and turned off most of our wholesale operations towards the tail end of last year. And now we're transitioning more to just full-time buying.
This is an interesting pivot that you've made or are making. Before we get to that part, I'd like to know a little bit more about the wholesaling aspect. Tell me about the most memorable wholesale you got under contract, or that you didn't get under contract.
That's a good question. We ended up doing a little over 120 deals in 3 years. And so we did, and there's a lot of them that didn't go through either. So that's a lot of deals to go through. I think one of my favorites was early on. There was a big one. It was like I want to say it was like my 5th or 6th deal or something like that. That one we walked away with an $87,000 assignment fee. And so that was a really big one.
What was it that you could make that much on?
It was down in the Atlanta area, and it was 2 properties. They were super beaten up, but they backed up to a lake up in Gainesville. And they backed up to the lake, so they were lakefront, which was hard to get access to. Yeah. So that panned out pretty well.
So then someone could easily buy it, tear them down, and really build a nice place.
Yeah, either that or and the biggest thing too was, I think the guy who bought it, he was planning on just building, because it was 2 separate lots and they were side by side too. And then the guy who ended up buying both of them, he was looking to tear it down and put slightly bigger buildings on each one, so it just looks a little bit nicer. And then he was gonna flip them and resell them, because the hard part was there just was no more lakefront access, and so that was the huge part there. So that one worked out really well. It worked out well for the seller too, because the seller, his wife had passed away not long before that, and he was actually facing some pretty severe health things. And he also said, he's like, I'm in a financial stress point. And at the time, it had tenants in the property who weren't paying rents. So he was, I want to say, almost 80 years old. He was having major health things, and he said, I just need money to come through. He's like, I just need to be done. He's like, I need to be able to pay my health bills and stuff like that. And I'm losing money every month because they're not paying their rents. So we went in and did a cash for keys situation with them. So we gave them some money to exit.
Good.
And so we solved his problem there. We got him cash in his pocket, and then we were able to make a good fee on it. So
nice. Yeah, it's about problem solving, isn't it?
Yeah, that was
What kind of properties did you normally wholesale? Were they usually single family or?
Mostly single family. Yeah. Yeah, mostly single family. We did a couple portfolios. There was one, this was one that actually didn't end up going through, which was painful because it was a creative finance deal. It was a portfolio of 67 properties in Indiana. And we thought that they all were, it was going to be a great deal. And then we started to go in and do inspections on the properties, and there was some foundational stuff on some of the properties. And so as we started adding in some of these big ticket things that we weren't expecting, it started to kill the deal. But we were pretty excited when we got it first locked up, but ended up being one that didn't work out. So.
Yeah, that's what I asked Abraham Gray about portfolios, and he's like, yeah, they usually hide a few dogs in there. You got to go hunting for dogs. I'm like, oh, okay. So it can be, like it sounds great, but there's going to be some bad eggs, I'm sure. But that's
ducking. Yeah.
That's pretty big, to have handled and gotten into. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And did you ever go to Pace's Mastermind or any of these other groups' mastermind?
Yeah, I did. I was one of Pace's mastermind students. I think, when was that? I think it was during COVID.
He had his mastermind during COVID?
Or maybe it was the one right after COVID had loosened up enough. I don't remember. I want to say it was March of 21, I think is when I went.
Okay. That's interesting.
And no, maybe it's 22. Yeah, I think it was March of 22, because I think I'm hitting about 2-year mark now. So yeah.
Which markets do you like best and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I kind of so I don't know. Are you a fan of Alex Hormozy? Do you watch his stuff ever?
I got his free book. No, I had to buy it. I think got 2 of them, and I'm looking for someone to give the other book to.
I do actually. If you find somebody who needs one, I don't know if you see them over here. I've got 2 as well that I need.
I wondered if that's what they were.
Yeah, I've got 2 over there too. So sometimes I like to take the approach to figure out what it is I like by eliminating what I don't like. And I think the biggest thing for me is that there's certain markets I won't touch. We don't really do anything in New York or California. We don't touch. I've been more tempted with California than New York, but just because I have family out there. We tend to stick to mostly reddish states because they tend to be better landlord-friendly states.
Yep.
Right now, most of our portfolio is held in Indiana, Georgia, and Texas. Even though I live in Pennsylvania, most of the stuff is elsewhere.
Do you have anything besides your own home in
Oh,
Pennsylvania?
yeah. Oh, not in Pennsylvania. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't. It's funny. I've even tried multiple times to buy properties locally and just never has worked out. So we keep trying to make a deal happen and haven't found anything locally, but we keep finding stuff elsewhere. So we keep investing there. But
So Indiana, Georgia, and Texas.
yeah, that's where most of it is right now.
Okay. And are they single family? What are you looking at? Small, multi? What are they?
We look at single family, multifamily. We haven't bought a large multifamily yet. We'd love to do something that's more than 10 units. Right now, we have a quadplex, but everything else is quadplex or below. So.
Okay, cool. Very good. And did you get those at the same time as you were building the wholesaling, or did that come as a result of the pivot? Because I know that you're not really in wholesaling right now, right?
Yeah, we do just a little bit here and there. It's mostly kind of a side hustle at this point. We slowed it down and just kind of the lingering stuff that's tailing through. If we've got a decent buyers list, so if somebody needs help with something that we're like, oh yeah, we know somebody, so that we'll help them out. So, but yeah, most of it. I mean, we had a handful of those that we bought during the wholesale period. We bought. Yeah, I'd say probably about half the portfolio was bought during the wholesaling period. And then as soon as we had we had a portfolio deal that was lined up. We had 4 duplexes. It's funny, I did a podcast with Pace on these ones too. And because he heard about this deal and I texted him about it and he's like, oh, that's great. And so we went on and I did a deal breakdown on his podcast with him. So we bought, right as we were slowing down the wholesale stuff, we bought these 4 duplexes. So we had 8 more units that came through from that. We've had a couple other ones since then too. And then that's when we got the podcast was beginning of the quadplex was the beginning of December. So we've had all in all, I would say it's probably like 50-50 of how much was done during wholesale. And then once we put full focus on acquiring, how much has come after. So
how many doors have you got?
We have, I think we're sitting at 26 right now.
Very nice. So you're doing it full time. Yes. You were doing wholesaling for full time too, right?
I was. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what is the concept of the future? What are you looking to do? Continue buying or what?
Yeah. So we kind of have like these 3. Oh yes, I love Indiana and Michigan. Having gone to school there, I love Michigan. So we have kind of 3 things that we're focused on right now. So a major one is just buying. So we're trying to buy as much as we can, especially if it's a creative finance deal. It increases our capacity to continue to buy. Mm-hmm. So if people have deals, send them to us. We'd love that.
In those areas, in Indiana, Georgia, Texas.
Honestly, we're looking elsewhere too. Like right now, this morning, we were looking at a deal in South Carolina. And then we have a small portfolio we're looking at in North Carolina right now too.
Oh, you're looking at a portfolio in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Are any of them in Charlotte?
No. I'll have to look. I think it wasn't far from there. I'll have to look. We'll connect after.
Take a look because sorry, all of a sudden, bing, my ears go up.
Yes, yeah. I forgot you were in North Carolina. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll look at it because we just saw this one. It came through over the weekend, and we were looking at this one, and we're just trying to vet it still, the pictures and rehab stuff like that. But
also Asheville, I'd be interested.
Okay. All right. Will do.
So might be another lead. I don't know.
Victoria. There we go. Yeah. Victoria, yes. Send it on over. We'd love to take it a look. Yeah. Honestly, that's the biggest thing is we're looking all over the place right now. We're trying to, yeah, 100%.
I did. So you buy someplace else.
Yeah. Well, and the big thing for us is just so everybody knows, and I would advise this for anybody who is getting into purchasing properties for yourself, or if you're wholesaling too, you need to understand what your buyers are looking for. Is when a buyer is looking to purchase the property, you have to factor in your vacancy, your property management, your CapEx. And we're not buying these to then have a job of managing the property ourselves. We're buying them to then outsource that to a property management company. So we're factoring that in. So as long as we can find a reputable property management company in that area, we don't have a problem with doing it in most places. So
interesting. Very interesting. Oh, we've got a question from the audience.
In the
In the
beginning,
beginning,
no.
did you live off your W-2 to build up your portfolio? Does your wife work? And then he talks about his beautiful wife, who I had the opportunity to meet on Zoom. So he left in his W-2 in August. He's
Yeah.
got 2 co-living. Congratulations on the second one, Jared. And so going back to work? No, say it ain't so. So tell us about your journey there, Jake. What did you do at the beginning? Did you do half and half, or did you just jump in?
Well, in the beginning, I was still working at the job while I started to do a couple wholesale deals. And so we had gotten, I think when I finally turned in my resignation at that point, we had done something like 15 or 20 deals. So we had enough there that I was like, oh, hey, this is predictable. I can expect, like, if I'm putting in this much effort right now, if I increase it, how much more can we do? But I still probably, it took about 9 months for us to do those. I mean, I feel like the first couple, until you really start to get a rhythm of it, it took 9 months or maybe even 10 months to really, from the first deal to when we finally got up to like 15 or 20. And then I finally left the job at that point. My wife does not work. She's a stay-at-home mom, which is honestly probably more work than anything I've ever done. So
that's right. She's just not paid in the traditional
sense. Exactly.
Yeah. And how many do you have now?
We have 4 kids. Yeah.
4. Okay. Yeah, that should keep her pretty busy.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is interesting how it takes a little longer than sometimes people think.
Yep.
So, to me, like Jared, for example, came in and before long, boom, he had that first one. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. But, to get it going and keep it going, it does take some time. It's taken forever with me, and I'm trying. So I think that part people don't quite, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. They don't quite realize it as much. That's for sure. And with, I was going to ask this a little bit later, but I'm going to ask it now.
Sure.
For people who are starting out in the field of real estate, what advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a good question. I think wholesaling is great. I think the trend that I see is that it seems like people get into wholesale and they realize it's not as easy. I mean, the problem is when I got into wholesale 3, maybe 4 years ago, I forget how long, I think 4 years ago now. Wholesaling was much easier because we were in a booming market. And so as soon as you found a property, the hardest part was finding the properties. Once you found the property, the buyer was easy, right? In today's market, it flipped a little bit, right? There's kind of like this caveat here where now if you find a property, because funding, the cost of money is so much higher, it's now a little bit harder to find the buyer who can make that work, unless it's a killer deal. And that point, so you can be able to sell it easy, right? And so it depends on how much of a discount you're getting it and what the cost of funding would look like to get into it. That's why I'm super bullish on creative finance still. So if you're looking to get started for the very first time, I would highly recommend jumping onto a team of somebody who and that's what I'm going to throw there, is actually producing deals. Because there's a lot of people out there who say that they're doing deals, and I've seen people be like, oh yeah, like our team is growing or ever. And I know I've heard Pay say this, without HUDs, you're duds, right? Like have people show HUDs, have people show you that they're actually closing on deals consistently, and to just show proof of, hey, this is what's actually happening, and then learn from those people. Because if they're having success there, then I can guarantee you that you'll be able to learn something from them. And if you can do that for a while and make some money with somebody else, you're not going to make as much money as if you were wholesaling it yourself, because obviously they have to make percentages and everything too. But you're going to learn a ton in education, and it's going to fast track that course so fast. It's going to be worth every penny that it's essentially you reinvesting into your own education through somebody else. Right. So I would start there, and then through that, you can either branch into wholesaling yourself, or also by getting to know the deals that are coming through that are selling, you're going to start to get acquainted with what a deal is and what it's not. And so much of this game is networking. And so the more you're in it, the more you talk to people, the more you network. So
that leads me to the next question, which is about networking, connections and relationships, in sub 2 and outside of sub 2.
Yeah.
I'd like you to talk about how important they are. Now, you've already mentioned that you joined one mentorship for that, and you negotiated on another one to just try to make sure that you weren't going to be paying the whole time, but that you were making connections. We have almost 13,000 people now. That's a lot of people. How many groups do you need? What does it look like? Did you actually make any long-term relationships? Talk to us about connections and relationships in real estate.
Oh, I've made tons of long-term relationships. I still like, even from the mastermind, when I went to the mastermind with Paces, Jesse Stanton and Chris. He's gonna beat me up because I just drew a blank on his last name.
You talking about, is he Black?
Yeah.
In New York?
Yes.
I can't remember his last name either.
He partners with Jesse.
Him, and he's got great physique. I'm sorry, I met him. Wait, it's ridiculous. Guys.
Chris and I, we talk all the time, and
Baptiste, that's right.
Baptiste.
Yeah. Thank you, Kimberly, very much. Because the first time I went, I hug everybody, and on occasion I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And he's all muscle, man, that guy. So yeah.
So
Jesse, you met the two of them at your thanks, Kimberly.
Yeah, so Jesse and Chris and I are really close, and I talked with Jesse again just recently, I want to say like 2 weeks ago. We'll text each other back and forth. Sometimes he'll randomly send me one of those like iPhone games on your phone kind of thing. We'll play back and forth for fun too. And yeah, there's a handful of people who I have gotten really, really close with through Sub2. I know Josh Duke, I don't think he's super active in Sub2 anymore, but he's somebody who I met at that mastermind as well. And he's in the Dallas area, so I knew Dallas. And
what does he do? What's he focusing on?
He does a lot. He was in Sub2, I think, from the very first day it started. And he and April Giuliano, who I've gotten to know both of them really well. And yeah, Josh is doing, I think he has a massive wholesale operation. They even opened a brokerage for real estate agents. Wow. And they do a lot down in Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston, I think last I heard. So, nice. Yeah, so he's helped me. I mean, he's hopped on calls with me all the time, and we'll go through stuff. I haven't talked to him for a little bit, but I know he just got married, so that's a big thing. And then I've talked with April a couple times, and yeah, there's a couple people who I just got done talking with. Rick.
Rick.
What's his last name? Sheldon. Just talked to Rick Sheldon just 2 days ago, and we were chatting for a little bit about some CRM stuff because we started a CRM company as well. And
you did?
Yeah. So we started. I didn't talk about that. Yeah. No. So part of it is when we shut down the wholesale operations, or I guess slowed it way down to just kind of get whatever's trickling out still. Mm-hmm. We said we have this whole team of VAs who are extremely talented. We have this CRM because we had built our own CRM at that point that was quite effective. And so we took that.
Who was the programmer? Who was the programmer that you'd build a CRM? You.
Yeah.
So did you build it on something like Go High Level, that sort of concept?
Yep. So we built on top of Go High Level.
Okay.
Yeah. So we took Go High Level, and then we built all of our customizations on top of it and build out. And we built it we have a real estate build in there because we were using that for our real estate business. Mm-hmm. And then we also built one for M&A purposes for buying businesses because those are the two businesses we're in right now. So, and so that's what we built it out for both of those. And so we've taken our CRM, we've made that available, and we continued to vamp that up. I got off a call right before this one actually.
What's it called?
Changes. It's called Cycle Sales. So CYCLSALES. So cyclesales.com. You guys can check it out. So
I just finished joining Mo.
Mo. Okay.
Do you know who he is?
I don't know that one.
Okay. No. He's in Sub2 he's been in for a while, and he and Tony, his partner Tony, used to do luxury.
Okay.
And now they've kind of gone their own way a little bit. And Mo is doing just what you're talking about. I just got High Level from him. And I'm trying to personalize it, and it takes a lot. So he's built it on that, and he's pretty much giving it away at this point just to build a, following. So I didn't
That's kind of
realize
how we're.
that.
That's how we are. That's how we are right now too. Is that we have super low rate right now because we're trying to get people in. And honestly, if anybody wants to join too, our price is massively reduced right now because we're trying to get people in as brand ambassadors at the moment who can help us talk about the product and promote it and become affiliates. So if somebody's interested, hit me up there. So
okay, so let's spend a little bit more time on that because it could benefit you. So just a sec, I gotta write it down and put it on so that if somebody is watching,
sure.
So it's cycle, CYCLE. You said, right?
Not with the E. So CYCL and then sales.com.
Sales.com.
Yep.
And let's show that up. Okay, so that's where they got it right.
Yep, that's it.
All right, and it's go high level, and it's specifically for real estate and for mergers and acquisition and mergers. All right. You know that Abraham does that business stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've talked with Abraham quite a bit too, and we've talked a bit about M&A stuff. So he has a different buy box. He goes off a lot of entertainment stuff, and we've been going after some other types of businesses. But
okay. Well, there are people who are interested in it, that's for sure. So if they choose to want to get that kind of a CRM, are you the support guy, or are you the one that they're going to contact when they say, I can't figure this out?
Yeah, so we have a full team. So we have a full team of support who's available 24/7, and they can answer any questions. They can send you Loom videos about how to do stuff. They can hop into Zoom with you and clarify things. Nice. So from a support perspective, it's probably not me. If you go on there and you book a discovery call, I'd be happy to chat with any of you guys and let me know you saw it here, and we'll make sure that Effie gets some type of thing from it, and also we'll make sure to give you some type of discount. So.
Oh, well, okay. I was actually thinking about you because I had touched on that before, and I want to make sure that any way we can help you and make people aware of what you're doing, we do. Although I'll take any affiliates I can get,
Yeah, I was gonna say, Effie, we gotta share the love. You'll get some too. So.
You know what? I'm pretty bad at that sort of thing. I keep forgetting people, so now I can say it. We've got a few people on here. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And please make comments on the actual site. And the only thing I've done is connected StreamYard, because as you set it up, it says affiliate. And, I'm like, okay. So I've done that. And they sent me a message, you're very close to making money. I was like, it's been almost a full year. I don't think I'm doing it for the money. I think I'm doing it more because this is a lot of fun and it helps me and it helps other people. But that affiliate concept is a good one because Pace pays attention to it, tells us to pay attention to it. So that's good. So then you have the CRM, you're doing buy and holds and, that sort of thing. You've wound down the wholesale pretty much, except you'll take some on. Anything else that you have not mentioned so far?
We turned our VAs into a VA company. So we have a VA company for people who need VAs.
What's the name of the VA company?
It's called Grow Virtual. That one's growvirtual.net. And so that one we just took because we had a
virtual.net. Hopefully I have this right. Have I got it right?
That's it.
Okay. So tell us about the VA service.
Yeah.
Because
so that was just
in you as a person, but we also want to be able to bring business and benefit from you. So tell us about it.
Thank you. Yeah. No, that stemmed from the fact that we just had done a lot of deals at that point. We had a team of people who were really dedicated, and I knew wholesale was probably not my long game because, like I said from the beginning, it was not my passion, but it was something that was a means to an end. And we had trained a team of, like I said, we had a pretty large team at the time. We kind of started to slow things down and turn it off. And so one of the things that has brought me a ton of joy and satisfaction from being able to be an entrepreneur is providing jobs for people. And last thing I wanted to do was to turn it off and say, hey, we don't have a job for you guys anymore, especially if somebody's doing the job well. If they're not doing the job well, then obviously it's not the right fit. But all of them were doing a fantastic job producing a great number of leads every day or appointments or whatever it was they were doing. So it kind of happened naturally of just like the father side of me saying, we need to take care of them. I talked to my partner and I said, we need to find homes for these individuals. So we kind of spun it up and just started providing VA services for people. And that's kind of continued to just naturally grow. And it's, we've got a full system now of CS or client success managers in place to be able to work with each client and help make sure your VAs are producing effectively. And we have a team of trainers in place and all that other stuff. So
out of curiosity, is it all for real estate, or
Nope.
Do you go into other, industries also?
Yep, we'll go into other industries. Obviously, the people who are on our team previously, they had a lot of background in the real estate side of things. We've placed a good amount of executive assistants and admin assistants with people for different purposes. We just placed somebody, actually we have a couple of them doing this now, but I'm just thinking about it because this morning we had somebody else start up for somebody doing some research-based things in the background as an assistant. We have a couple callers.
Talk about that a little bit more. How would that work? Like what do you mean?
Yep. So they're functioning they're actually doing part-time for two different clients. So one of them is doing some M&A purposes. So they're trying to find businesses that line up with this individual's buy box and gathering the information for contact stuff, size of the company, revenue, all that type of basic stuff. Also searching through a lot of the listings online and finding the businesses that match with his buy box as well. Okay. And then the other client is actually looking for somebody to do research on different topics because they're trying to start up a newsletter. And so they want them to be able to gather information that's unique and put it into a presentable way, and then using ChatGPT, try to come up with a draft for a newsletter first, and then that's going to go out. So,
in a particular industry or just any?
I don't know. I'd have to check.
It's interesting to me. I find it interesting.
Yeah.
Melissa was asking, what kind of businesses are you interested in buying?
Yes. So we actually just refined our buy box with one of them, but I have two partnerships that we're buying businesses in. So one of them is we're seeking property management companies, very tied to real estate. So we're looking for property management companies, and we're also looking for adventure businesses. So like outdoor stuff, whether it's boat rentals or kayaking stuff or snowmobiles or let's see, we're looking at right now, we might be buying a scuba shop or a scuba diving company down in Hawaii. We're looking at, there was a skydiving company that we're actually talking with as well right now. So just fun. That one just started because we said
it sounds to me like high liability. Although I used to be a scuba diver and I have jumped out of a plane. Right. But it is interesting because one of the things you have to make sure is you've got your insurance going. The guy who I jumped on the plane with, and this was the one that Abraham and I were on the same plane when Pace had gone and done it for the first time. My glasses came off. And they'd given a goggle to protect you, right? Yeah. So as I'm going, this silly thing just, flipped out. And they were $600 glasses, but he was very apologetic. And I was just like, never mind. It's a good story.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I didn't have the money to replace them, I might have felt differently. But it's kind of, they said, by the way, you signed a waiver. Not oh my God.
That's funny.
It is funny.
So we're doing the adventure business. And then the other partnership we have, and I'll just throw this out there too, is that we're going after assisted living and funeral homes. So kind of end of life care and death care. And then with that, and then the other thing we have paired in there is that we're just looking for other things. If somebody has a business that has high transferable value, which to define that for people is that it can operate mostly by itself. It might need some help growing and scaling and stuff and some strategy brought into it. But as long as there's a team in place that can maintain status quo, then we're just looking to be able to help scale and grow that some more. So, and that one, we're more industry agnostic. We're just looking for something that we can come in as an absentee owner and help bring our marketing expertise and boost it and scale it.
Can you give us an example of that kind of a business?
We've looked at a bunch of them. Let's see. I'll just pull up. We were looking at yesterday. We were pulling together a ton of them. So I will pull them up on my computer right now and tell you some ideas of some of these. And they could be across anything. There's nothing really fancy to it.
We have in my mastermind class, there was a mortician.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you need contacts, contact with him.
Yeah. So there is one that we were looking at that was assisted living facility. There was a home health care. There was a construction company. So kind of related to here. Here's a indoor shooting range. Here's a bridal store, an online like e-commerce bridal store. There was a boutique law firm. So it's really across the board. It's just, is it unique enough that we can make it grow and scale? And is it big enough that it's gotten to the point where it has a team in place that can maintain operations? And then at that point, we're excited to make it happen. And so.
Good. Who's your partner? And like Melissa says, what's your contact for business buying?
Yeah. I will put my email in the chat if you want to put it on the.
Sure. Absolutely. Hang on a second. I say I'm okay in this, but look, I'm not good at handling it. All right. So do you see where it says private chat?
Yeah.
You can put it in there.
Put it in there? Okay.
Yeah. And then I can grab it and I can put it in front of everyone.
There you go. So it's just Jake at Cycle Sales. So for everybody who saw the Cycle Sales, but Jake at cyclesales.com.
Okay.
Email me there. And I will admit right now, I'm not the best with email. I check it every day or two, but I'm not somebody who's constantly monitoring it. So if I don't respond immediately, no, it's not that I'm missing it. But
got it. And who are you partnering with on this?
Yeah. So I have, so for one of the mentorship programs that I'm a part of, it's about M&A stuff. So I partnered with a couple people in there. There's a couple that I'm partnered with for the end of life care. So like the hospice, assisted living, stuff like that, funeral homes and stuff. That one is
through that particular mentorship.
Yeah. So that's there's a couple who I met through there who I'm partnering with them on that venture. And then it's two other gentlemen who I had just networked with, and we were chatting, and we just said, hey, we have similar interests. And so then we're going after the property management and adventure businesses. So
I find it interesting that you're looking at different types of businesses and through joint ventureship. And watch out for Victoria because she's coming.
Great. I'm ready for you.
Okay, good. So you're joint venturing, or are you partnering right away with some of these people?
We're partnering.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done enough business with each of them because it's fine. I was talking to somebody else about this earlier today because he said, how do you find a partner? And I told him, I said, honestly, every time I've tried to force a partnership, it's been terrible. It never worked out. But when we have gone after, I just saw that.
That's funny. You can go to the funeral home.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is they're totally different.
Living first, because they're going to need some assisted living.
They're different partnerships, though, so they're not like related to each other. But I guess I'm kind of the bridge, so yeah, I'll just refer people across. But
that's funny.
No, but anytime we forced a partnership or we've tried to make a partnership work, it rarely has. I feel like we go into it with different intentions than when we just network with people and find people who are doing cool stuff that we want to be a part of. And then we go and participate with them and find ways to create some mutual beneficial goals. And so we've gone that route. And so I've been pretty lucky to come across some great stuff.
Good. Cool. You had me curious about that M&A mentorship, but I'm not ready. I got to get my COVID. So I'll come back to you on that.
Yeah. No, anybody can reach out to me, and I'm happy to refer you guys into that program too. It's been fantastic. So
really? Okay. Yes, for sure. And property management, man, I tell you, that's the only reason Pad Split exists, right? Yeah. Because they talk about being able to get you property management and take care of that. If we could have a good property management company, like you say, we wouldn't be afraid to go ahead and buy in a place that we're not. But it's not having the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
It scares the bejeebies out of people. If they choose the wrong one, then there's, they're
Yeah.
going to lose, all that sort of thing. So I think that you could make a killing on that one. Pardon the pun again. But it's all about death with you, isn't
it? I should never brought that one up. No, but the funny thing is, though, is
funerals. I'm sorry, but you know what?
There you go, Joe.
Death, right? Those are the two things. And even though some people are choosing to be cremated,
yeah,
overall, funeral homes are going to, and graveyards, things like that, they just make a lot of money.
Well, a lot of the funeral homes, some of the funeral homes we've looked at, they have crematory services as well. And so it's honestly, most of funeral homes is really just the planning of the funeral services, right? It's almost like it sounds bad to say it this way, but it's almost like a party planner, but for post life celebration. So I mean, that's honestly, like, when we started looking into all the business model and everything, so much of it is planning flowers to come and planning for the services and planning for invites and food and everything else. And it's so much of it is very similar to almost like what a party planner would do, but just obviously with a darker tone to it and maybe different focus. So,
yeah. And it's funny too, because I think even if you're tight for money, when someone close to you dies, you don't want to get cheap on the flowers, like you don't want dandelions, right? You want the good ones. So I think that there's probably a better margin in something like that, because it is once in a lifetime event. Okay, this could get very funny, but it's
pretty recession resistant. That's honestly why we started to go into it, because I came from my healthcare background, and going into it, I have enough knowledge of it to go into the assisted living and home hospice stuff a little bit. And then we were like, hey, funeral services is the next part of that process. And it's recession resistant because people die all the time. And like you said, the last thing you want to do is not provide memorable services for your loved ones. So
Yep, exactly. And with your with assisted living, would you hire people who have the licensing, or is that something? Okay.
Yeah. So we'd hire an administrator in home to be able to be there as administrator on site, and we'd be operating under their license. So
have you decided what states to look at?
Yes, we have. I can pull that up too if you want.
I'm very impressed. I mean, there's a lot you held back on this pre-call.
Yeah, let me. I'll have to pull it up because we had a whole map. I might have to get that one to you too later. But I think if I go off of memory, I think it's Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Texas, Oklahoma, and Arizona. And then it jumps over to Tennessee, and I want to say there's one other state near Tennessee that we're also looking at too.
Wow. Impressive. Impressive to say the least. I would like to say thank you very, very much. Is there anything else that you have been hiding from us?
No, honestly, this is the biggest thing. And Effie, I was so honored that you reached out, and I'm so grateful for the chance to connect with you too. And
I feel the same way.
And honestly, I wouldn't have, like I said, when I started wholesaling, I had never done a real estate transaction. We hadn't bought our own home. We hadn't done any of that stuff yet. And the only reason we've done as much as we have is just due to networking and partnering with people who had done more than me. And they helped kind of carry me through some challenging moments. And I love that side of trying to give back. So if I can help anybody, please let me know. Happy to help however I can, and just honored to be here, honestly. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much. And I think on that note, we will say goodbye, and thank you for coming, everyone. We will see you next week.